Ethan sat at the long mahogany table, the one his family had used for every Sunday dinner since he was a boy. But this wasn't a dinner. No food, no laughter, just his parents, Daniel, and his grandfather sitting in silence. His father cleared his throat. "We've made a decision," he said, his voice firm. "The family estate will be transferred to Daniel, effective immediately." The words hit Ethan like a punch. He blinked, unsure he'd heard right. Transferred? To Daniel? Daniel leaned back in his chair, a small smirk playing at the corner of his mouth. He didn't even bother hiding it. "It's for the good of the family," their mother said, her tone final, like she'd rehearsed it. Ethan felt heat rising in his chest. "The good of the family? I'm the one who kept the business running when Dad was in the hospital. I was there every day, working. Without me, we wouldn't even." "Ethan," his father cut in, "Daniel has the personality to lead. You're better suited to work in the background." The words stung. Ethan's throat tightened, but he kept talking. "Personality doesn't keep the company afloat. Hard work does. And I've done that for years while Daniel—" "Enough," his mother said sharply, as if his protest was an inconvenience. Across the table, his grandfather, Samuel, sat quietly, his eyes fixed on Ethan. There was something in his gaze, steady, calm, but sharp. He hadn't spoken a word since the meeting began. Ethan felt like the air in the room was too heavy to breathe. His parents had already decided. His voice meant nothing here. Slowly, he pushed his chair back. The scrape of wood against tile was the only sound in the silence that followed. He didn't look at anyone as he walked out of the room. That night, long after the house was dark, his phone rang. The caller ID showed one name, Grandpa Samuel. Ethan answered, his voice low. "Hello." "Ethan." His grandfather's voice was steady, but carried a weight. "There's something you need to know before you give up." When Ethan was a teenager, he was the kind of boy who kept to himself. He liked to work with his hands, fix things, and figure out problems quietly. Daniel, 2 years younger, was the opposite. He could walk into any room and make people laugh. Teachers liked him. Neighbors remembered his name. At home, their father often called Daniel, our future leader, in front of guests. He'd clap Daniel on the back, proud and smiling. When it came to Ethan, the praise was scarce. In private, his father would point out everything Ethan did wrong. His slow speech, the way he didn't connect with people, his lack of spark. Ethan learned early that if he wanted recognition, he wouldn't get it through charm. He had to earn it through work. And work he did. In his early 20s, when the family company was struggling with delivery delays, Ethan spent months redesigning the logistics network. He drove trucks himself when drivers quit. He made phone calls to suppliers until midnight. He cut costs and improved schedules so much that the company's profits doubled in 2 years. But even then, his mother would shake her head at him. "You're good with numbers, Ethan," she'd say. "But charisma is what makes a leader. That's what Daniel has." Now, in the present, Ethan was the one keeping the company running every day. He managed contracts, dealt with clients, signed paychecks. Daniel, meanwhile, didn't work at the office. He spent his time posting videos online, showing off luxury cars and expensive trips, introducing himself as the heir to the family empire. The attention only made their parents prouder of him. At home, Ethan had one safe place, his wife Grace. She had a calm strength, the kind that made you feel steady when the world tilted. After the family meeting, she sat across from him at their kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "Don't let them crush you," she said. "You've given your life to that company. You're not less than Daniel, no matter what they say." Ethan wanted to believe her, but the weight in his chest told him otherwise. Sundays were the hardest. The whole family gathered for dinner, just like when they were kids. Daniel would tell stories about meeting celebrities or attending exclusive events. Their parents would laugh loudly, hanging on every word. If Ethan tried to talk about a business deal he'd closed or a new contract he'd landed, the conversation would quickly shift back to Daniel. It was like his work didn't exist in their eyes. Over the years, Ethan had learned to keep quiet during these dinners. He would pass the food, smile when needed, and keep his thoughts to himself. But inside, each ignored achievement left a deeper mark. And after the meeting earlier that day, those marks felt like they were beginning to cut through. Ethan was in his office early Monday morning when the email came in. The subject line read, "Update to estate plan." It was from the family's lawyer, someone he had known since he was a boy. He opened it quickly, thinking it might be routine paperwork. But as he read, his stomach tightened. The message was short and formal. The will had been amended. His name was no longer listed as a beneficiary. All assets, including the company and family estate, would pass to Daniel. Ethan stared at the screen. For a moment, he thought there had to be some mistake. But the words were clear. He scrolled down again, hoping to see some mention of him. There was nothing. He didn't wait. He got in his car and drove straight to his parents' house. His mother opened the door, surprised to see him in the middle of the day. "I got an email from the lawyer," Ethan said, stepping inside. His voice was low, controlled. You removed me from the will. Completely. His father came out of the living room, his expression calm, almost too calm. Daniel needs the stability, Ethan. You've built a life for yourself. You can make your own way. Ethan felt his hands curl into fists. I am the stability. I've been running the company for years while Daniel. His mother interrupted, her voice firm. This is for the good of the family. Daniel has the presence to lead. People follow him. You've always preferred to work alone. This isn't about presence, Ethan said, his voice rising despite himself. This is about you choosing him over me. Again, his father's tone turned sharp. You're making this personal. It's business. Ethan almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. It's always personal when it's family. There was nothing more to say. He walked out before his anger made him say something he couldn't take back. Later that evening, still boiling inside, Ethan drove to his grandfather Samuel's small house. The old man was sitting on the porch, rocking slowly, as if he'd been expecting him. I heard about the will, Samuel said before Ethan could even sit down. They cut me out completely, Ethan replied. They didn't even try to hide it. Samuel leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Your parents think they've played the final move, but the real game hasn't started yet. Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? There's something in the original will, Samuel said, lowering his voice. A clause I added decades ago. It was meant to protect the company from exactly this kind of thing. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. What kind of clause? Samuel's eyes narrowed, a faint smile touching his lips. Let's just say the will you saw isn't the only one that matters. If you've truly been running things the way I think you have, you might have more power than you realize. Ethan leaned back in his chair, the first flicker of hope breaking through his anger. He didn't know what his grandfather was planning, but he knew one thing. He wasn't ready to give up. Ethan went back to his parents' house 2 days later, determined to try one last time to make them see reason. He kept his voice calm as he sat across from them in the living room. You're making a mistake, he said. I've given everything to this company. Daniel doesn't know how to run it. You know that. His father shook his head slowly. What I know is you can't stand to see your brother succeed. That's not what this is about. His mother's voice was cool and flat. It's always been about you feeling overshadowed by Daniel. You've been jealous since you were boys. Ethan stared at them, stunned. Jealous? I was the one fixing trucks at 2 a.m. so we could meet deadline. I was the one negotiating contracts when the market crashed. Daniel was posting vacation photos. You don't get it, his father said, standing. People want a leader they can admire. Daniel inspires people. You work hard, but you don't inspire. The word sat heavy in Ethan's chest. No matter what he said, they had already decided who he was and who he wasn't. That night at home, he told Grace everything. She listened quietly, her hand resting over his. You can fight this, she said. Take it to court. You have proof of your work, proof of Daniel's negligence. Ethan shook his head. And let the whole world know my own parents cut me out of my inheritance? Let them watch my family tear itself apart in the papers? No. That's what they want, to make me look desperate. Grace squeezed his hand. Then you need to be smart. Don't let them write the ending for you. The next morning, Ethan opened Instagram out of habit and instantly regretted it. Daniel had posted a picture of himself leaning on the hood of a new sports car, the caption reading, "Proud to step into my role as the sole heir to our family legacy. Exciting things ahead." The comments were full of congratulations. Ethan felt his stomach turn. He decided he couldn't just sit back. Quietly, without telling anyone, he began digging into the company record. He knew the systems well. He'd built most of them himself. It didn't take long before he noticed unusual transactions. Large payments for consulting that didn't match any known vendor, credit card charges for high-end hotels and designer clothes, all billed to the company. When he traced the card numbers, his jaw tightened. They were Daniel's. Ethan printed the records and went straight to his father. He laid the papers on the desk. This is company money, he said. Daniel's using it for personal spending. Thousands of dollars, Dad. His father's face went red. You've been snooping through company accounts. I'm protecting the company, Ethan said. If you let this go, it's going to ruin us. You have no right, his father snapped, standing up. You are not in charge anymore. In fact, I don't want you stepping foot in that office again. The words felt like a door slamming in Ethan's face. Without the office, without access, he had nothing. He left the house without another word, the weight of betrayal pressing down harder than ever. His own parents didn't just doubt him. They had cut him out completely, both from the company and the family's trust. That night, Ethan sat alone in his living room, the documents still in his bag, unsure what to do next. Grace had gone to bed early, sensing he needed space. The quiet was suffocating. Then his phone buzzed. It was a text from his grandfather. Meet me at the lawyer's office. Bring nothing. Say nothing. Ethan stared at the message, his pulse quickening. He didn't know what Samuel was planning, but the tone was clear. This wasn't just a conversation. Something was about to happen. The next morning, Ethan walked into the lawyer's office to find his grandfather already there, sitting beside a large brown envelope. Samuel didn't smile, but his eyes held a steady, almost sharp focus. The family lawyer, Mr. Ajayi, greeted them and locked the door behind. "What I'm about to show you," he said, "has been in a safe deposit box for over 30 years. Samuel pushed the envelope forward. "This," he said, "is the original will, not the one your parents had rewritten." Ethan leaned forward as Mr. Ajayi carefully opened it and pulled out several crisp pages, yellowed slightly with. "The clause in question," Mr. Ajayi said, adjusting his glasses, "states that control of the estate and the company will pass to the grandchild who keeps the business solvent for 5 consecutive years. Solvent meaning profitable, with no major debt." Ethan blinked. 5 years. Samuel nodded. "I wrote it after watching too many families lose everything because of careless heirs. I wanted the company to go to the one who proved they could protect it, not just inherit it." Ethan's mind raced. "And I've been running the company for 8 years now." Mr. Ajayi opened a folder on his desk. "I've reviewed the financial records. Ethan, under your management, the company has not only stayed solvent, it's grown steadily. The last 8 annual reports are all in the black." "And Daniel?" Ethan asked quietly. Mr. Ajayi's expression darkened. "The past year shows large, unjustified expenses, cars, trips, luxury purchases, all charged to the company's account. If those charges had continued unchecked, the business would have gone into the red within 18 months. Just then the door opened. Ethan's parents and Daniel walked in, clearly summoned by the lawyer. His father looked irritated. "Why are we here?" Mr. Ajayi cleared his throat. "Because, according to the original will, your recent changes are overridden. The legal heir to the estate and the company is Ethan." The room fell silent. His mother's eyes widened. "That's impossible. We changed the will." "You did," Mr. Ajayi said evenly, "but the original document contains a binding clause that supersedes any later amendments. This is airtight." Ethan fulfilled the requirement. Daniel did not. Daniel's smirk disappeared. "This is a setup," he shouted, pointing at Ethan. "You went digging for some ancient rule to cheat me out of what's mine. What's yours?" Ethan said, his voice steady. "You didn't earn it, Daniel. You treated the company like your personal bank account." "Shut up," Daniel yelled, slamming his hand on the table. "You've always been jealous." "Enough," Samuel's voice cut through the noise, calm but cold. "I taught you both differently. Only one of you listened." Daniel's jaw tightened, his face red. Their parents sat in stunned silence, as if the ground had shifted beneath them. Mr. Ajayi gathered the papers. "The transfer of control will be filed today. Ethan, from this moment, you are the legal CEO and sole heir to the estate." Ethan took a slow breath, the weight of the years pressing and lifting at the same time. For once, the choice wasn't in his parents' hands. It was in his. Within a week, Ethan was sitting at the head of the boardroom table, officially the new CEO. The board members, many of whom had watched him work tirelessly for years, gave their full support. Some even admitted they had been waiting for this moment, knowing he was the one holding the company together all along. Taking the lead felt natural. He didn't need to make grand speeches or put on a show. He focused on what he'd always done, keeping the business strong, treating employees fairly, and building relationships with clients. His parents didn't congratulate him. In fact, they didn't call or visit at all. Weeks turned into months without a single word from him. At first it stung. The silence was its own kind of punishment. But over time, Ethan realized he could breathe without their constant judgment. He hadn't lied, cheated, or played dirty. He'd won by staying true to himself, and that was something no one could take away. Daniel's downfall was harder to watch. Without the company credit cards and constant flow of money, his glamorous life began to crumble. The expensive cars were sold, the trips stopped, and the flashy social media posts disappeared. Friends who once crowded around him drifted away. Ethan didn't take pleasure in it, but he also didn't interfere. Daniel had made his choices, just as Ethan had made his. One afternoon, Ethan sat in his office looking at a photo of his grandparents from years ago. Samuel had always believed in hard work, honesty, and looking out for people who had less. Ethan decided to start a scholarship program in both his grandparents' names, aimed at helping young people who wanted to study business, but didn't have the means. When he told Grace about it, she smiled in that quiet, steady way of hers. "That's exactly the kind of leader you are," she said. He looked at her, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, certainty in himself. "You think so?" "I don't just think so," she said, reaching for his hand. "I know so, and I'm proud of you, Ethan. Not just for what you've won, but for the man you've always been." For the first time, he didn't shrug off the compliment or doubt it. He believed her, and that belief felt like the real victory. A year later, on a quiet morning, Ethan walked through the small cemetery where his grandfather was buried. The air was cool, the grass damp from early dew. In his hand, he carried a bouquet of fresh white lilies, Samuel's favorite. He stopped at the headstone, running his fingers over the carved name. The memories came easily. Samuel's steady voice, the way he'd listen without rushing to speak, the quiet strength in his eyes. Ethan knelt down and placed the flowers neatly at the base of the grave. For a moment, he just stood there, letting the silence wrap around him. Then he spoke softly. "I didn't just win the company," he said. "I found myself." His voice didn't shake this time. The words felt true, solid, like they belonged to him. He stayed there a little longer, telling his grandfather about the scholarship program, about the people whose lives were changing because of it, and about how the company was stronger than ever. He didn't talk about his parents' silence or Daniel's struggles. Those things no longer defined him. When he finally stood, he felt lighter. The man who had once been the overlooked son, always standing in someone else's shadow, was gone. In his place stood someone who had faced betrayal, fought for what was right, and refused to be broken. Ethan walked away slowly, the morning sun breaking through the clouds. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Hey besties, thanks for watching till the end. Ethan fought against family betrayal, proved his worth, and honored his grandfather's legacy. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and subscribe for more gripping stories. See you in the next one. Her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip, so she booked the seat right beside them. Bye!